Well, welcome everyone to this special episode of Boss Time on the BruceBook Facebook page. My name is Mitch Slater, and I'm so honored to be sitting here with the lovely and very talented and extremely charitable Maureen Van Zandt. Besides being a Scorpio, like me, born 4 days difference, and a huge lover of dogs, especially Edie, Maureen's bio is so impressive it could take hours. So I'll just mention she's worked on Broadway and off-Broadway as an actor, dancer, choreographer, director, and producer. In her spare time, she's the co-artistic director of the Renegade Theater Company. On September 19th in New York City, we'll be at the Cutting Room doing a staged reading of 40 CPS with her good friend Vinnie Pastore. And on TV, obviously, we all remember her Gabriella Dante on a little show called The Sopranos for 6 seasons. More recently, she was Angelina Tagliano on Lilyhammer on Netflix. And these are just the highlights. Oh, and just to show you I did my research, Maureen won the New Jersey Spelling Bee when she was 12.
Oh, God, you got it.
Is that accurate? Or
that is true,
yeah.
Yes.
What was the word?
Anteroom. 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 I think the other person spelled it with an I.
Wow. It's a fun fact. But today we're mostly going to talk about the charitable work she's done and continues to do for kids in music education. In a little while, Maureen and Stephen will continue to host their meet and greet for fans that are supporting the Rock and Roll Forever Foundation, which provides middle and high school kids with an actual curriculum on American rock education. On September 25th in Ocean Township, Maureen and that little Stephen guy she hangs out with will be honored at the inaugural gala of the Rocket Live Foundation, which is dedicated to music education, where there'll be special performances by Stephen with the young Rocket musicians and some special guests. We're going to link up more details below for you to donate or attend. There are some tables available, so we'll give you more information. So again, welcome, Maureen, and thanks so much.
Oh, great to see you, Mitch.
So let's talk about kids in music education first, something that's near and dear to me as well. So what is the general state, what would you say, of music education in our schools, and why do you feel education in popular music is really so important?
Well, I think that all of these programs have been rapidly disappearing from all the schools, and I was lucky enough to go to an arts high school, theater and arts high school, so my curriculum was dance classes and music classes and theater classes, and even when I was in a regular school, we had a lot of that stuff, and now it just doesn't exist anymore. And I think that it's important. Music is something that is an everyday part of everyone's life, and is so important to people and has such meaning for people, and I think knowing the history of it only enhances what you're listening to.
Yeah, get it right? I mean, if you're gonna learn it, get it right. Exactly. It was important, just as important for us to learn back in our day, the Bach, the Beethoven, as well it's going to be in the future generations of the Beatles and the Stones and the E Street Band. I mean, these are the things.
Exactly. These are the classics of our time, and people should know. You may not love Elvis, you may not love the Beatles, but you should know about them because they're very important. Right,
absolutely. So I'm going to talk from Bruce from Rocket later and get some more details on the event, but I know the kids did a bang-up job this past weekend at the Basie playing your, I guess, second favorite band. So how did it go? I understand they played the Revolver.
Oh, it was great. They did, first half of the show was all British songs by British artists, not British invasion particularly, but Bowie, I mean, all ages of and times of British artists. And then the second half of the show was the full Revolver, which most people regard as the most important Beatles record or the best Beatles record. I will not say it's my favorite. I mean, they're all up there, but it's an amazing piece of work. And it was revolutionary. I mean, it really changed the music scene for all the bands that were around at the time. And these kids did an amazing job. I mean, the Beatles songs, I'm told, I'm not a musician, are really, really hard to perform. And Bruce and his staff did the most amazing job, and the kids really came through. And the thing is, what I love is that these are, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids who are doing the music that I grew up with and we grew up with, and they're really respecting it and loving it, and that really inspires me, makes me really happy.
It's really great that organizations like the Rock and Roll Forever Foundation exists, and Rocket. I got to watch a rehearsal a few weeks ago, and how did that involvement begin for you guys?
Rich Russo, our friend, who's a great DJ, great friend, he had somehow gotten involved with the people at the Count Basie Theater, and they were doing their first Vanguard Awards, and they asked to honor us. And the show that we were honored at was performed by Rocket, and it was a tribute to Woodstock, which they thought was very appropriate for us. So that was the
Well,
involvement.
let me fact check. I know you were at Shea. Were you at Woodstock too?
I was at Woodstock for several hours.
Okay. That's close.
Okay.
I mean, that's. I've always said I was actually in
I'm
the
not a
Berkshires,
muddy
not that far away.
type
but
of girl.
it wasn't
I was there the morning that Jimi Hendrix performed.
So you saw that performance.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about you for a second. You really began your career as a dancer in American Ballet Theater, Metropolitan Opera Ballet, and appeared in a number of Tony Award-winning shows like Hair and All That Jazz. What drew you initially to dance, I guess is the question.
I think it was the music. I always loved music. I had a babysitter who was a complete Elvis freak when I was a kid, and so she played Elvis, she played rock music all the time, and I became a real music freak. Listening to the radio, under the covers, trying to not have my parents hear me in the dark at night, listening to the radio, the little transistor. I think that always inspired me. And I went to a dance class because my best friend was going. And I didn't know if I would be interested or not, but I ended up staying and she ended up leaving. So that was really it. But I think what really inspired was music. I always liked to dance to music.
Was the transition with your acting career, did that kind of come naturally for you, or was that a separate challenge?
The acting is tougher for me because as a dancer, as you know, you only use your body. I had a really bad injury, and I didn't think I was going to be able to continue to dance. So I'd always liked acting. I was in a couple of shows as a kid where I had to act a little bit, but mostly dance. And I just started taking acting class, and I loved it. I love reading plays. I love literature, and it just was another way to tell a story.
Let's talk a little bit more about Bert Berns, because it's just such for so many people, they just don't know who he is, and it always just blows me away. And you're about to bring potentially to Broadway an incredible story. For those that don't know Bert, and I'll let Maureen talk more, but he was inducted this year in the Rock Hall of Fame. Finally, my God. Only lived, unfortunately, 38 years or something like that, 37 years. And this is a man that wrote Twist and Shout, Piece of My Heart, Hang On Sloopy, Tell Him, I Want Candy, just to throw a few out there. But kind of what drew, obviously the music and the story is great, but what kind of drew you and Stephen really to this?
Well, we had been contacted by Brett and Cassie Berns, who are the children of Bert Berns, who really didn't know him because he died so young. But they wanted to bring their father's story to the world, since people don't know much about Bert. We know about Lieber and Stoller and, Ellie Greenwich and all those people, but not much about Bert. And he wrote some of the most iconic songs of that era. And he was a real character from what I can tell by the book that I read about him, and also the information I've seen in the show. Anyway, they put together the show called Piece of My Heart, and they invited me to a workshop of it. Stephen couldn't attend that day, but I just fell in love with what they were doing. It was just kind of people sitting around at a table and singing, acting. It just really impressed me in some way. And I said to Stephen, I think this is something that we should really, I didn't think we were going to get involved, but I thought we should at least support it. And it just turned out that they ended up bringing it off Broadway. We went to see it, loved it. And now they're going to bring it to Broadway, and they asked us to come on as producers.
When are we expecting to see that?
Well,
roughly.
I'm not really sure. I am thinking it could be as soon as spring of 2017. Paul Schaefer is another producer, so that's really exciting because he loves that era of music.
Right.
And he's a genius.
And the success of Smokey Joe's Cafe, and the success of Beautiful, and the success of Jersey Boys, and it's. There's a story here. It's a great story.
I think people love real stories
yes,
about real people. I know I do. If I'm going to read a book, I want to read a biography or an autobiography because I like things that are real stories, and also to be introduced or to be reintroduced to really, really great music and fun performances.
And it's exciting. Nothing against Rodgers and Hammerstein and all the greats that are out there, but these are songs many people know, and it's something that I think helped a lot of other shows. When you walk in and you know half the songs, it's a big difference. That's what was so wonderful about so many of the other shows we just talked about. All right, let's talk music, as we are hearing some music in the background here. I don't know who those guys are. It does sound like Kitty's back, I think, being sound checked. So I'm sure you're excited like everyone else, and fans always have their favorite concert songs. And but before I even ask you about Bruce and concert songs, so if you go see, when you saw the Beatles in '65, what was the ones? Do you remember the one song? Of course you knew they'd play it, but it really meant something to you the most?
God, well, I saw the Beatles in '64 and '65 and '66.
Mm-hmm.
I think, God, there were all those great songs, and I loved the early songs so much.
Right.
I think George Harrison's "If I Needed Someone" really blew me away.
Yeah.
Out of all of them, I was always a George girl.
Yeah.
But there was something about that song, to hear that guitar in the stadium and to hear it live, but everything they did was great. I mean, they sounded just like the record. And I mean that in a very good way.
Oh, absolutely. They were great records.
They
were incredibly produced.
They were a perfectly produced band, and they were perfect live. I can't even describe it any other way.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen Paul McCartney on any of the recent tours?
Yes, I have.
Is there a song when he plays that works for you or doesn't work for you, or something you really enjoy?
Oh, no.
We'll say work. But.
I enjoyed his songs. I would say maybe I'm Amazed is always something that amazes me.
Yes. Oh, fantastic.
But he's, of course, as everyone knows, he's now been doing the Beatles songs, which he didn't do for many years. And, you hear him singing those songs. It's just... It's mind-blowing. I couldn't pick it. If someone asked me my favorite Beatles song, I said, I can't give you 10 favorites.
Well, it's like the question that Springsteen fans like myself get asked all the time. What's your favorite song? What's your favorite show? I mean, that's like asking me which kid I like better.
When someone is that prolific, how can you pick out of hundreds of songs? There's so many, and depending on your mood that day or what's going on in your life, it's always going to be something different.
Right, and that's that way for every artist. I would imagine, though, if you had to look at Steven's catalog, I'm going to let you answer what your favorite your song is, but I might know.
Oh, I've got a few. I love "I've Been Waiting."
I think there's one that was written about you.
Oh, well, I can't say that's my favorite, but it's my sentimental favorite. Of course I love it.
Yeah, okay. It's Angel Eyes for anyone that doesn't know, but
Men Without Women. I mean, I love all those songs. I really do love those records. I think it's just It's been a long time. That's another really special
I love
favorite.
And in fact he did that at the Darlene show. And,
that's right.
Yeah, well, he's done it at so many shows all together.
And also another one that I love that it appeared at the end credits of a Hugh Grant movie called 9 Months, The Time of Your Life.
Right.
Beautiful song that he actually recorded with the members of Bon Jovi.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite songs too.
So what about E Street bands? I mean, I know Steven just loves when the signs are out there for loose ends and where the bands are and songs like that. He really does. How about you though? Are there any?
Oh, I go for the Long Drive All Night. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
I have to say, and I love Meeting Across the River.
Right.
I love The River.
Yeah.
I like, I guess, the more theatrical songs, but again, there's so many. In Rome. How many times have I heard Jungle Land?
Right.
And I was standing behind the monitor, and as I was listening and watching, I was also seeing the lyrics, which, you just don't think of. And I'm thinking, this is amazing poetry on its own. And I was so stunned by this song. And, again, I've been hearing it since, 1975, right?
It's amazing because I play piano, and, when I sit and I really look at the lyrics and just take them on their own merit, it's absolutely incredible. And Jungle Land is certainly one of those songs that, and Meeting Across the River, and obviously New York City Serenade, which Bruce has played at least the first 3 shows of this tour. He's opened with the strings, and
it's
it's
great.
been
I was
beautiful.
lucky enough to see that both times in Rome, last tour and this one, and it's a beautiful, beautiful song.
It truly is. Take me back to the night at Barclays, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That must have been a very special night. I was there, fortunately. It was
it was
very meaningful.
I thought a long time coming, and it was really, was very emotional for everybody. It was kind of surreal. I mean, I think I thought there would be a lot more celebrating, but I think everybody was really very moved by it, and everybody was kind of in their own head, and it was interesting vibe there that night.
It certainly was, and some long speeches.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's funny because Stephen was told that he can only do 30 seconds, and he really stuck to that, and they still cut him.
Yeah.
And they cut the best parts of his speech, but anyway, that's what happens.
No, absolutely. We talked a little bit about the Beatles, but what other, everyone asks the old Desert Island disc song albums, but are there, maybe 2 or 3? I love talking about albums specifically because people don't really talk about them anymore. So what, other than, we talk about the Beatles, but other artists, 2 or 3 albums that are just so, you just would have to have with you, besides the obvious ones?
Jeff Beck, Truth album, which I think is my favorite of all time. Any of the Hendrix albums, Are You Experienced, Electric Ladyland, Axis Bold as Love, those are great. The Faces, not as good as A Wink to a Blind Horse.
Right. So let's get back to Hendrix. Since you saw him at Woodstock, you also see him at other locations?
Yeah, I knew Jimi.
You did know him, right?
Yeah, so I saw him not many times because he didn't play that much in the area, but I remember seeing him out at the Singer Bowl, I think it was called, out in Queens. I saw that. He used to play at a club called Salvation. He used to perform at a club called The Scene that I used to go to quite a lot. I was working at a theater nearby, and used to go there with my friends almost every night. That's where I saw the Jeff Beck group with Rod Stewart and Ronnie Wood for the first time, 1968.
Oh my God.
Didn't even know who Rod Stewart was. No one knew who he was. And this amazing singer comes out there and blew everybody away. They played for a week, and I was there every single night. But Jimi used to hang out there, and he would get up and play. So I mostly saw, I saw him at the Fillmore East.
What was he like?
He was...
was the movie fair? In the recent movie?
I think
it was done without the family.
Right, but I think they did a pretty good... First of all, I thought that the actor Andre 3000, I thought he did an amazing job. I was really, really impressed by him.
For someone who knew him and met him.
It's I was afraid to watch it, but he did a really, really great job, a really respectful job. And, there's stuff missing from the story. There's always going to be. But I thought I enjoyed it. I think there was other things that need to be in there, but I thought it was good.
So times change, music changes. Obviously, it's a different world today, but, do you feel technology has improved music? Has it hurt music? A little bit of both?
I don't know. I just feel that there's almost too much stuff out there. Like, I feel like there are too many TV shows. I feel like I can't listen to everything or watch everything. So I think, in a way, when I was younger, and I hate this when I was a kid thing, but an album coming out was a special thing. We would wait for the date, and we'd go stand outside the record stores so we could buy it, or have I remember being in Catholic school and having the little transistor radio hidden under my desk because I knew the Beatles record was going to be played.
Which record store would you line up at?
Oh God!
Did you go to Aldwick's in Elizabeth, or were you mostly?
No, it was in Newark.
In Newark, yeah.
What the hell was that called? I'll think of it.
Yeah.
But it was on Broadway in Newark, and that was the one that I used to go to.
Rich and I just have discovered over the years we were standing at a lot of the same lines at that record store in Elizabeth.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, mine was the local store in Newark, and I became friends with the son of the owner, so it was very convenient because I would hold that Beatles record for me. But we would go and wait outside for it. So it was just I don't know if it's special to young people now because I don't know how they feel about things. Do they wait for music to come out but things come out and they just throw everything at you at once.
Well, that's why it has to be taught, and I think it's as much as the education side, the parent side. I've worked very hard with both of my kids, and we've had albums in the house.
Melody Records.
Melody Records. Oh my God. Oh boy, I remember the name. But it's so critical for parents to teach kids good music. I was playing, it was so exciting a few years ago we were involved at the event that Brian Wilson played at for me that night because when my son was born, I immediately wanted to play music, and I was like, what am I going to play? Obviously he'll play Springsteen. And I just happened to find a Beach Boys CD that was in the car, and when he started, maybe he was a little older, 4 or 5, and he just loved it, and it meant so much to him, and it was his first exposure to music, and I was so happy, and did that with my daughter as well. I wanted them to hear the Beach Boys and the Beatles and the Stones, and eventually they've found their own music, and I've actually learned from them and their groups that I never would have. I mean, I appreciate Eminem because of my son. I didn't really realize the talent till, I really got to know more of his records and his poetry. But Maureen, thank you very much for taking the time, and I just want to remind people again that on September 25th, well, first on September 19th, if you would like to go see Maureen at the reading, we'll be at the Cutting Room in New York City, and we will post some more information about that. And then September 25th, you can see, spend the week with the Van Zandts.
Exactly.
The 25th,
Come live with us.
Exactly, and come out to Ocean, New Jersey for the wonderful gala that'll be held to honor Stephen and Maureen for the kids at Rocket, a wonderful, wonderful organization. So thank you so much again as we listen to Pretty Flamingo in the background here at MetLife.
Favorites.
Oh, well, maybe we'll get it tonight. So thank you so much for taking
That'd
the
be
time.
lovely. Great to talk to you, Mitch.
Thanks.